while deciding on what game to play and having to make my decisions pretty quick. And this was because my wife and Chloe would be back soon. My decision to be on this typing program, it would change. I navigated from the solitaire game to the typing application. I opened to a blinking cursor. The cursor was speaking to me. It began to say, "Begin." I replied, "No," except my reply came from the inside, in my head. I didn't actually say anything. And it was like the screen or cursor heard me through. Or it heard me just as thorough as maybe you would understand me. I grabbed the mouse and tried, and as I was shaking and trembling to close this application and open Solitaire back up, the typing program would open up just as quick. Now, I understood, kind of, but I was confused with a tinge type of tunnel vision. I guess it was tunnel vision. And I stared at the screen and I began to type. Chapter 3, I said out loud as I was typing, and the sound of the keys on the keyboard began to flow, but very loudly. After what was about an hour, I think, I heard my wife and daughter come in the house. I put my computer to sleep and went downstairs. Helen asked me to come into the kitchen, and we would have a chat. I stepped in and I saw her smiling face. 2 more months. She said 2 more months and healthy. Now, in short, I knew exactly what she meant. That baby boy that we were expecting was doing good and almost ready to make his debut. Though I didn't know that she was going to the doctor. Hell, I thought that she was just going to the grocery store or something. But I was glad that she went to the doctor. And the only thing is, though, is we didn't have a name for him yet, and I was kind of anxious. Anxiety. We actually wanted to see him first, and we had a couple different names in mind, and this was Chloe's idea. So, take that in mind. Later on that day, I would be in my garage going through some things, and Chloe would come in there to tell me that I had a phone call. I went in to answer it, and it would be an invitation to a party a couple of weeks later. I told Helen about it, and roughly 1 month earlier, I believe, and this would be someone that Helen had worked with. Now, it would be a food party of sorts, where everyone would bring finger foods and things like that, and just sit around and chit-chat. Really just to get out of the house. This phone call would be what I needed. It would seem the wife, while doing laundry, would gesture to me about the call, quote, since she was the one who answered it in the first place, and would schedule us to be there later on in around 2 weeks. Space forward just the next day in the morning, where the first day on the job was for me when I started. So I would get up at around 6 a.m. and I would get ready to leave on a cool, clear morning. Now, with a quiet and steady motion, I would lean down to give Helen a kiss and then tell her goodbye. She would whisper back. I would then walk downstairs, pour my coffee, and head out the door. I started my way off to the porch and towards the car, and as I opened the car door, I saw a flash. A soft and quick, bright flash. and it was gone just as soon as I saw it. I figured that it was just a street light flickering or something like that. I sat in my car, closed the door, and off I went. This would be an everyday trip for the next week or two. And this was for training, and I would be in full-time on the job from home afterwards. Just a couple weeks later. Working on various assignments that would be given to me. Now, keep fast forwarding a couple weeks again. And working from home, my office, I began on a Monday morning by getting up and going down to the living room. I turned on the TV, switched on to the news. I went to the kitchen to do the breakfast thing, you know. Chloe came down to join me, and a half hour later or so, Helen would come down as well. At about 7:50 that morning, Chloe would catch the bus, and my workday would begin. My current assignment would be a long one, which would actually take me a couple of days. Of course, every day, at or around lunch break, I and Helen would enjoy something to eat together. Then, she would go off to take a nap. And since it was very close to the birth of our son, the naps would be more often and more enjoyed. I would do everything that I could then to make her comfortable on a daily basis. During my break, on one in particular day, I would decide to do some writing. Now, this was not normally something that I would do, since it was my time to work, right? So this was, of course, something that I had promised Helen also that I wouldn't do. But since I was at home, this whole thing I figured was okay. I swear to God, that is when it happened again. As I was typing, I would see in the corner of my eye, all of a sudden, something large and black. I turned my head slightly to the left and to actually see it better. It was walking on the ceiling. And it looked like it was walking towards me with a menacing, freakish look on its black, hairy, cat-like face. Only thing, though, is it looked like it was saying something to me, but with no sound or anything that I could hear. It was just like motion. I began to hear an ambient low pitch from my computer speakers. Then, it was like the beast flickered and then just disappeared. Kind of like a movie, right? I quickly picked up my computer monitor and I threw it. Now, to the horrific loud smash into the office wall, I screamed. I shrieked. I yelled. The wife came into the office and saw what I had done. And now she approached me with some choice words like, "What the fuck is going on?" I responded with a quiet, cold tone. I don't know, but I saw the beast again, and I spoke about her before, the beast before. You know, baby, the one I'm writing about. She sighed. She sighed very deeply, and then she told me to come downstairs to breathe. Okay, so she stepped back out of the office door with me following to the living room, and we were going to sit down and just take a breather and a chat of sorts. I told Helen that I had been writing every day on my break when she was napping, and that it was actually breaking me down, I thought. But before I could finish, Helen, now, it's like she began to break down as well. She began to breathe frantically, and then her water broke. Now, I to this day blame myself for possibly distressing her, for causing her to go into labor. I carried her out to the car and drove her quickly to the hospital. Helen was crying and making noises that I wasn't expecting, and nothing like how it went when she was in labor with Chloe. And nevertheless, I got her to the hospital quickly. I checked her in, then I went and go check Chloe out of school, and I kid you not, in 5 hours, she would give birth to a beautiful, bouncing baby boy, 22 inches long, and he weighed 8 pounds and 11 ounces, with a full head of blonde hair. We then decided to name him Timothy. What a day to remember. Now, starting a few days later, we would begin at a home's splendid adventure as a larger family. Fast forwarding through the days of remembrance, little Timothy would grow so fast. In fact, in particular time, he would be about a month old or so, and I just knew that he was going to have a wonderful life. I was grateful to be a father to him, to my children. Now, speaking of good times, we missed the party, and we were invited to another one of sorts for another time. So Helen's friend Alice would be throwing this other party, and it would be a basher, I might add. We would not miss this one. No. Helen's friend Alice gave us the date and location, and it would be perfect. And of course, it was going to be on my day off. Alice said that her sister, being experienced with small children, would agree to watch ours so we could go to this party, because she was experienced with different age children from newborn up. We accepted the invitation, thanked Alice for it, and spoke with her sister. I know Helen needed to get out of the house, so I'm thinking that she just needed to breathe the free and fresh air. Only thing is that at some point on this day, I would realize how important it was to spend as much time as possible with those who you love.